there is a privilege that is associated with my hair looking like this. I know that maybe sometimes people will be more willing to listen to my hair care perspective than somebody else that doesn't have hair that has shimmer and sheen, that's following a similar approach, and their hair is matte, naturally matte. Maybe it's a brown color that doesn't reflect light the way that my hair can, or it's the surface texture with the color of their hair that doesn't reflect light. So people might say, I'm gonna listen to Flo because she's got the shiny hair. Let's be real. So there's a privilege where people can find my hair more attractive, and or the hair that looks like mine more attractive, and not it shouldn't receive certain types of abuse. I've heard these stories of people that have hair that doesn't have the shimmer and the sheen to it. And so, like we said, this thing of thinking that they need a super perm and they need such aggressive combing and, all sorts of like abuse. I understand that with the way that my hair looks now, that, I might not necessarily, I'm less likely to experience that. So there's a privilege there that I believe that, that's part of, so not only recognizing the diversity of hair, but the privilege that I have in this space with the way that my hair looks, and the importance of, okay, so what do I do with this privilege? So now I understand that the admiration that people give me for my hair, and it's specific, when they name specific qualities, shine, definition, the admiration that I'm getting for this hair, I should be pumping out that people that don't have shine, people that don't have definition, they should be getting the same admiration. So that privilege is teaching me to think about how to make things more equitable in terms of how people that don't have hair that can look similar to mine, how they should be treated, and actually just how Black people should be treated with different hair textures across the board. It's teaching me, this ambiguity of my hair is teaching me a privileged experience, and causing me to think, okay, so this is how this person should be. Okay, yeah, this is how they should be treated.
That's all really, really interesting. Very, very interesting, and very, very eye-opening, because for most of my life, I have thought 4C is the most difficult hair type. We have the most problems. We have the least amount of representation. And sometimes when I would hear people who have a different hair texture complain or talk about their hair, I'd be like, really? Like, really? Because I only have my perspective. So it was just, it can be difficult to understand that just because you have your own experiences and your own difficulties does not mean that somebody else does not have their own. So you sharing all that information is just so interesting, and it's so eye-opening, because what you're talking about with the being ambiguous and having that privilege, that in itself brings its own difficulty. Because like I said, I've never experienced someone looking at me like that, or someone thinking like, oh, I'm privileged because of my hair. I've only been on the like, I feel like I'm being kicked for my hair. Like I feel like I'm being put down. But you've been in a different position where you have to sometimes probably feel your own kind, your own people look at you like, we don't accept your hair because it doesn't look like ours. Like that's a different experience that I've never had. So it's just fascinating to hear all of that. And I'm just really impressed with your self-awareness to even be able to say that you could recognize how your hair type could bring you some privileges in some areas, but at the same time, to some people, it still might look too Black. Like it still might not be white enough and still might not be acceptable. And I think that is something that people forget as well. Your hair type in the Black community may look a certain way. Maybe some people would call it good hair, but when you go out on the street and you're not in the Black community, they may not see a difference between you and I. Like we might be the same to that person who's looking at us. And I think we forget that. And it's unfortunate because we really should be gathering together and remembering that fact.
But you know what's so crazy?
Yeah.
I used to look at people and say oftentimes they would be lighter skinned, and they would, not saying all light skinned people or all mixed people that are mixed race that are lighter skinned have silkier, smoother, or looser hair, but I'm speaking about a specific group. I'm saying that there would be some people that would be mixed race or lighter skin with looser hair and also silky hair on top of that. And I would look at them and I'm like, they would have type 3 curls, and I would be like, oh, I can't relate to them at all. Everything is so easy. Okay, let's be real honest. I'm like, they should just shut up. What are they talking about? What hair care knowledge do they have when you can just wake up and put water in your, what do you have? You don't have to do anything to your hair. Your hair is so easy. Yeah. I used to think that way. And then once my hair started to look like how it looks now, and then people started saying that stuff to me, I was like, oh, my feelings are so hurt. I was like, oh my God, all this work and struggle that I went through, all the mountains I had to move for my hair to get to this health and for my hair to look like this. And then that's when I started to sit down and I started to actually watch the lighter skinned women, or even just the women with looser hair, smoother hair. I would watch them and I would be like, I can identify with them when it comes to this. I can identify with them when it comes to that. And then I would actually see them, I would see people that would actually be implementing steps to care for their hair. And like they would putting in hard work to care for their hair and get that end result. And, and I also started to listen to the variety of stories, started to listen to the variety of these experiences. And I also started to even just it makes me want to cry. I feel so much love and care with how I can identify with other Black people, or even other Black people of African descent that might be mixed race more. I can identify. So it's like I have this more holistic perspective where I can recognize my privilege. I can recognize their privilege. Like I can recognize how they can do a simple video and now they've got 1 million views. And the woman over here with the hair that looks kinkier and is more matte, she's got like 500 views for doing the same video. I can recognize that privilege, but then I can also listen and hear where we connect as people of African descent with our experience. Like I think of Tia and Tamara Mowry and how I grew up watching them, and like I said, I had my afro, my hair was frizzy, which is not a bad thing, but I never had defined curls growing up. But I would sit down and I would watch Tia and Tamara Mowry and see, I never had long hair either. I would see them with their draping loose curls on Sister Sister. And I would know that I would think to myself, I don't have the good hair. And so, I would be like, not only am I not light skinned, but I don't have the good hair. But now as an adult, I hear them talk about their hair experiences and how they have to change their hair for casting calls so it wouldn't be read as too ethnic. So they have to straighten their hair for casting calls, or them being on set and nobody knowing how to do their textured hair. And, just now I can hear where I identify with them as another person of African descent. And it's just so rich. So I think that a lot more people would be willing to have more honest conversations about privilege and those things that everybody should be given when it comes to the appreciation of their hair and the treatment they receive with their hair. I think that more people would be honest about privilege if we were more willing to connect and be honest about where we identify as well. I saw this is the messiest website on earth. I don't recommend anybody go on it. I was on it by mistake, but Mariah Carey in her autobiography talks about how her hair was such a struggle as a mixed race woman and how like her Black family members didn't know how to do her hair and it looked a hot, crunchy, full mess. It looked terrible, and so she talked about that. And so there was this thread on Lipstick Alley where this person was just adamant about how her Black family members should have known how to do her hair. They were insinuating that because Mariah Carey is mixed race, that her hair is easy. They're like, they were insinuating this hair is easy. Just slick it back, just slick it down, just it's easy, it's easy, it's easy. And it's like, no, let me say this, where people get confused is someone's hair can be easier to fulfill a Eurocentric beauty standard than yours, but it doesn't mean that when they actually go to manually care for their hair, it's easier to care for. But when I was a model for curl artists, people that specialize in defining curls and cutting curls. I was a model at an Innocence workshop. And so Aisha was doing my hair. Aisha Strickland, the co-founder of Black Girl Curls, and someone else was doing this wavy, swavy model's hair. So she had long, wavy, wavy, it didn't even curl at the end. It was like long, wavy hair. And I saw the stylist pick up some hair and try to tuck it down really quick. And when she picked it up, it had a knot this big. I kid you not. That was the biggest knot I have ever seen. The knot was so big and just twisted, and she just like tried to tuck it down really, really quick. I don't know if she cut it out or I don't know how she got it out. But I was like, I have knots, but I ain't never seen no knot like that. And you know, I ain't never seen no knot like that. And I remember, and so when I talked about that in a video, in a YouTube video, people in the comments were like, yeah, I know, I've seen people wavy, swavy hair and their hair not like that. And even African Hair Guide had a mixed race child, the cosmetologist, he had a mixed race child come into the salon, and her hair was so matted, severely matted and tangled. And it's like people for the life of them couldn't understand how her hair could be matted and tangled. Just because someone's hair can fulfill a Eurocentric beauty standard easier, that does not mean that their hair, the actual care of the hair, is easier than your hair that falls more in line with this sort of essentialized understanding of what Black hair is. There's that, but.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I think that when we talk about what is, because I've definitely used to think that if your hair is looser, then your hair is automatically easier to care for. But I'm now understanding, because there are people that I've now met who do have a looser hair texture, who tell me that they have not been able to grow their hair at all, where they're asking me questions. I'm like, I thought that it was supposed to be easy for that. Okay, interesting. But I'm realizing that when we say easy, what does easy hair actually mean when we break that down? Because I think when people say that, they'll say things like, well, you can go into a shower and just wash your hair like this, and then get out of the shower and go and air dry your hair. Does that mean that your hair is easy to care for? Or does that mean that you can wash your hair in that particular way? Sure, you could choose to think that that is easy, but that person who's washing their hair that way probably also has to wash their hair more frequently, because the hair strands are gliding down, or the oil is gliding down their hair strands a lot more. They're probably a lot more prone to having oily hair where it's visible, where it's like, oh, I have to go wash my hair because now it's not looking the way I want it to look. Whereas I can go a long time without washing my hair strands. Sure, my actual practice of washing my hair is going to likely be longer, and I'm going to have to put more care and thought into it. I'm not going to be able to just go in and do that, but I can extend that for weeks, if not months, if I really want to. So who's to say what is easier? Or just the fact that I have the ability to braid my hair or to twist my hair, not put a rubber band at the end, it'll stay that way. My friends who have straight silky hair, they can't twist their hair without actually banding it at the bottom. So who's to say what is easier? It's just different. But again, like what you're saying, because a lot of what we consider that we treat as good or bad or easy as hard is really black or white, we tend to think that whatever white people can do, that's easy and that's good. And we forget all of the advantages that we do have with Black hair, that we don't even think of it as a concept. Something even as simple as volume. We never talk about freaking volume. When was the last time as a Black person did you go to the store and you said, you know what I need today? I need a volumizing shampoo. Not one time in my life have I said, I need to, what is it that it's called? I don't even remember the terminology of what they used to do, where they would, back in the 80s, when teasing, where you would have to tease your hair and manipulate it and like intentionally make a knot and then cover it up with other hair to make the illusion of volume. When do Afro textured people have to do that with volume? But we don't even think about that. But when you talk to a lot of non-Black people who have fine silky hair, volume and trying to get their hair not to go limp after putting curls in it, that's a very common issue that we take for granted because we're so accustomed to looking at ourselves as always having the short end of the stick, always being the victim, always being given what was bad, as opposed to looking at our hair as a gift and just the amazing abilities of what we have, how gravity defying our hair can be. Like we don't even think about that. So I find it fascinating. I wish people would challenge themselves on what is actually easy, what is hard, what is good, what is bad for hair, and where do those ideas that I currently hold come from? And do I actually think that, and how can I change that? And how can I work with what I have?